there were like 1980s trapper keeper looking
Yeah.
slates. There were futuristic cyberpunk looking liveries. It was unbelievable to see, and I've never seen another car manufacturer embrace the personality of these cars like I saw Slate today.
This week on That Car Show, it is a cruise show with friend of the show and Lindsey's husband, Tory Alonzo, sitting in for Dan. I'm not going to lie, it's been a weird week for all of us, but we do have a lot to talk about, including the most American cars you can buy in 2026, what the Japanese market thinks about the quality of JDM cars that are built in the U.S., and yes, the Slate launch. Lindsey and Tory were there, and they seem to have been really won over by the thing. This is an audio-only episode, by the way, thanks to some technical issues with our podcast platform, Riverside. So you'll unfortunately miss all of Lindsey's impressive new Slate swag, but also, thankfully, my own sweaty self as I melted in my oven of a garage. In any case, grab a drink, sit back, and enjoy. It's That Car Show. Hey, it's That Car Show, and it is good to be back. It's a warm and sticky night here in Denver, though it's not hailing, so thank you, Sky Jesus. Dan is off tonight taking care of some business, but we do miss him. Our old pal Tory Alonzo is sitting in for him tonight, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. It has been a very busy week, especially for you guys. If you don't know Tory, he's been on before as a great guest, but he's actually Lindsey's husband as well. So glad to have you here, Tory. And you guys are both in SoCal tonight, huh?
We are.
We are.
Lindsey resplendent in Slate.
All of my Slate
products,
regalia, complete with
regalia. So we'll get to that for sure. But
I'm
yes.
about as slated out as you can get, right?
That's right. What'd you call her before we hit record, Tory? Christian Slater?
Christian Slater.
Tory, you must be a fan of the comedian Mark Normand. Do you know Mark Normand?
I don't. No, I probably should know.
Okay, all right. He's a car guy. We're trying to get him on the show. He's got a Roundy 2002. He lives in Manhattan, and every once in a while he'll mention the car on his show. But his whole comedy is sort of based on like wordplay and stuff, and I think we'd have a lot of fun. So if you're listening and you know Mark, tell him we're talking about him, and we want to talk to him on the show. But so Lindsey and Tory, I have a question for you. What's it mean for a car to be American?
Interesting. I mean, me,
did you see this list that came out?
I did.
Cars.com. They put together the cars, and we have friends there. Obviously, the American Made Index. And I was shocked to see, I guess, the top three. Do we have any idea what the most American car currently on the market is? And this is a car that, through content and production, as I understand it, has the highest percentage of being American.
Right.
So this is interesting because I have not read the article yet. So that might be kind of fun because I don't, but I would, if it were me, I would guess the Ford Mustang. There's not anything more American apple pie than the Ford Mustang. But I honestly don't know. I haven't read that article. I have no idea.
So I'm looking at the top 12 here. The Mustang is not here. Number one is the Tesla Model 3, which makes sense, right? Fremont, California.
Okay.
Number two is the Model Y, assembled in either Fremont or Austin, Texas. And then number three, the Jeep Gladiator, which makes a lot of sense, right? I mean,
I could see that. I think
American.
that,
So we're talking in terms of like
criteria?
Manufacturing then.
Manufacturing,
Right,
then
like-
also content, right? Like where the parts come from.
Like physical
it's a combination.
components, as opposed to
Right.
what is like the ethos represents America. And like, what do you think in terms of, if somebody says an American car, what pops into your head? A Tesla is probably not the top of that list. I'm thinking more like Mustang, Ford truck, whatever. But yeah, if you look at physical components and where it's assembled, that's different.
Yeah, and both of those, because I'm thinking the F-150, right? Both that and the Mustang, nowhere in this top, 30 or whatever that I can see. And what's really interesting to me,
F-150 is not?
No, I'm not seeing it anywhere. I've seen the Ford Expedition and the Ford Explorer. They're probably about 10 and 12. But other than that, it's stuff you'd never think. It's the Toyota Tundra. It's the Toyota Corolla. It's the Acura Integra. The Kia EV9, made in Georgia. I didn't know that. Lincoln Aviator's on here. But it's a lot of cars you wouldn't think. The Camry is on here. The Mustang actually is at number 22 for what it's worth. Number 22.
I mean, way down from where I would have guessed it would be.
Yeah, right. I thought it was interesting, and it's one of those things that doesn't even matter anymore. It's at this point it's just image, I guess. And it's funny because other than maybe that Jeep Gladiator, these are not the vehicles you find like the giant flag decals on, right? I mean, these are.
Sure.
This is it's interesting, and and Dan, who's not here tonight, sent over some questions for us, and this is one of them. Along these lines, it's the 250th birthday of our country, right?
Right.
If you had to pick one car that represents the nation, what would it be, and why? A reminder: a dumpster fire is not a car. But what would you? What would you pick? Would it be a Mustang? Would it be an F-150? Would it be a Bronco? Like if you had to pick a car to put in a 4th of July parade with a flag hanging off the back, what is it?
Oh,
I've got mine.
Bronco for sure.
Yeah.
Of course he goes with the Bronco. I would go with the 57 Chevy. I don't think there's anything more Americana than 1957 Chevy.
No, that probably was 100% made in America, right? Yep. I mean, I bet even the electronics, the tires, the everything down to the air filters were probably made in the United States.
Absolutely.
Right? It was a different world for sure. But, and to me, I think it's a car that is on that list, and it's the Jeep Wrangler. I had one recently for a couple of days. I enjoyed that thing so much. I think I need a Wrangler in the house. They're such great vehicles. You can take the top off. They're powerful enough. They're not going to get you into trouble. I think it's the last vehicle that you can buy that you can still get roll-up windows, right? They're just, just great. And
we're going to correct you there. Slate, baby.
Yeah, no, what? Oh.
I'm going to direct your attention to my everything today. Yeah.
I know. And that's... because we've heard very much about this. We've heard a lot today about this 23.9 for a Slate, and
24,995, I believe. It's
24,995, right?
Yep.
So the Wrangler has some company in that department. But you guys were at the launch. Was that today?
It was.
It was this morning.
Okay, all right. We're gonna talk all about that. But I was a little jealous. Obviously, they were giving out some swag. If you're watching,
what gives you that idea?
Yeah. But the last thing about Jeep is that also in the news today is that they have recalled every Jeep Wrangler made of the JT and JL lines with every engine and transmission combination from the 2.2 liter turbo diesel found in international markets to the Wrangler 392 and the Hemi V8 here in the US, all part of this recall. 1.1 million Jeeps are being recalled due to fire risks, and they are telling you to park them outside. So
that's not a good look.
No, it is not. It is not.
On top of the fact that there is no official permanent fix right now, their official stance is visually inspect it for signs of like heat damage or melting and repair it if you see it. Otherwise, just park it outside, please.
Okay.
Like that's not the most confidence-inspiring answer, unfortunately.
No, that's the default solution right now. EVs too, right? It's not just the Jeep. If your EV blows up, just put it outside. It's
just to be safe.
I'm just thinking about all the little rubber duckies that are going to needlessly burn.
It's going to be some black smoke.
Slightly misshapen, slightly melted rubber ducks. Yeah.
Yeah. It's and this is also related to this discussion about what's American and all this, because I think this is the best article yet. And this is thanks to our buddy Maurice Merrick over at Horsepower Heritage. He sends over this article from Motor1.com. This gem: Toyota and Nissan admit that their American-made vehicles aren't up to Japanese standards. Japanese buyers are not used to buying new cars that might have things like thin paint, panel gaps, or leftover residue. And in fact, they're putting notices on these vehicles that are being sold in Japan. The notice on the American-made Murano states, through translation, that, quote, "This vehicle is manufactured to specifications intended for overseas markets and differs in quality standards applied to vehicles destined for the Japanese domestic market," JDM. The notice continues, stating that the SUV may have dust particles in the paint, traces of sealant residue, or misaligned or uneven panels and gaps. Thankfully, Nissan notes, these differences do not affect the vehicle's functionality or performance, so you may use it with confidence. And Toyota has a similar warning on the Tundra and the Highlander, saying that the paint finishes are designed for overseas markets and that customers may notice thin paint, color variations, polishing marks, and dents. Go America. Dents.
Yikes.
Like dents. A dent is a bridge too far on my new car. I'll put up with a little thin paint, depending on, but a dent is, how embarrassing is that? Because I've actually found the opposite, that these Japanese cars made in the States, in my experience, are every bit as good as the Japanese made cars. But wild, right? They've got to put a disclaimer that the car was made in the States.
Well, the dents
literally a
thing,
scratch and dent sale. That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fascinating to me. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if I had my license, but we were at the local Ford dealer and they had, the salesman was telling us, he goes, oh yeah, we got all these Explorers that came in. They went through a hailstorm during transport. So, we're giving a screaming deal. And I want to say it was like $100 off.
Yeah.
So it was not the screaming deal he wanted you to believe it was. But they were acknowledging like this is outside of the normal, what do they call it? Margins or whatever, tolerances. We're not going to say like, a few dents, that's fine. Like, no, that's wild. I also think it's interesting. It ties back in with how American are certain vehicles, because I was thinking about, people don't necessarily think about where things are manufactured. I think people just assume if it's a Japanese, they assume that it's manufactured wherever the headquarters are or wherever the company started. I didn't realize Toyota was making cars here to send to Japan. That's fascinating.
No, I didn't know that either. Yeah.
And it calls to mind the recent Stellantis Jaguar Land Rover collaboration where if all things go forward, then Stellantis will be helping manufacture the Defenders here, or however, the details of that work out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a lot more muddled than we realize, because you figure a British car comes from the UK, Japanese car comes from Japan, American car comes from here. That's not the case anymore.
No. Do you think those Defenders will actually be better built when they're made in the States? I mean, real talk here. Is this... Like, will the Brits be surprised? Will they have a disclaimer that says, you know what, guys, this is going to be better than the one you bought that was built in the UK? I don't know.
These are actually great. I know. I feel like there's a joke there. I mean that I'm stuck on the note from Toyota, like, don't mind the dents. Like, what?
Well, do you think that would ever fly in the States? Right? Just the different sensibilities, right?
I think that's the thing is, like, I don't think American consumers would think that's fine either. I think that's why it's sticking with me so much, is like, hopefully nobody would be okay with a brand new car arriving with dents.
Certainly not with what new cars are costing these days. It's one thing to be in the early 80s when cars were cheap, but I mean, with the average price, I mean, they were talking about the Slate thing today, like the average price of a new car is $50-something thousand now.
Yeah.
Who's going to tolerate thin paint, scratches, dents in a brand new car? That's ridiculous.
Well, none of us should, right?
Agreed.
Nobody should.
But if you're listening and you happen to live in Japan, please track down one of these stickers and send one our way. This will be new wall art.
It's always fascinating to look at something like that makes it into like the official, company literature, if you will.
Yeah.
And you're like, what was the meeting where they decided that? Like, when I was a new mom, I was in the carpool lane, and obviously infant seats are not always visible, right? I got a pamphlet in the mail, official pamphlet mailed to my home. And it was an official Washington State, like, DOT pamphlet. A concerned motorist had turned in my license plate because they thought that I was in the carpool lane by myself.
Oh my God.
And there was an entire pamphlet about appropriate carpool lane behavior.
That's so Pacific Northwest, though.
That is like Seattle, land of the Karens. I say that all the time. That is like the Karen capital.
That is.
So that tracks.
That's amazing. And then you don't get a ticket or a warning or something. You get an informational,
you get
pamphlet
a passive-aggressive pamphlet.
I know, right?
I just remember holding it, going like,
being scolded.
Well, and this happens enough that they've made a pamphlet and then they went to the trouble of mailing it to me.
Right.
All for something that was not accurate to begin with because there were two of us in the car. I think that was the funniest part.
Are you both old enough to remember when you could send off for government pamphlets out of Pueblo, Colorado? Like they used to do these television commercials. No, you don't remember that?
No.
I mean, it may not be age. Maybe we just aren't aware. Well, I don't know.
I'll be 50. You're not that much older than me, right?
No, I'm 50. Yeah.
And right, we're all in the same age.
I guess I wasn't paying attention.
Well, maybe you weren't watching enough cartoons on Saturday mornings because that's
all
when I remember these. Right? Like it was like one of those like give a hoot, don't pollute, government,
I remember that. Sure.
Whatever type.
I remember
right?
that. I didn't know there was a pamphlet available to me, or I probably would have sent away for the free pamphlet.
Well, this is pre-internet, right? And I'm sure some of you listening remember these ads. But if you had a question about a topic, I don't know, like I don't even know, like weather or some sort of disease or something, you could send off, to Pueblo, Colorado and learn more about it, Lyme disease or something, right? Or I don't know, the life cycle of, the dung beetle or whatever. And they would, so you'd send a self-addressed stamped envelope, which is another thing that probably doesn't.
I remember those.
Yep. Send you this. So, yeah.
Flip through our free catalog and you'll find a list of hundreds of government publications just filled with useful facts about your home and how to keep it up. About growing vegetables in tiny gardens, even about buying a used car. For your free catalog that lists all the publications, write Consumer Information, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009.
I was talking to someone from Pueblo, Colorado. It's like,
and they're just buried in pamphlets there.
But
there's got to be a warehouse
magical government building. Yeah,
there's got to be a warehouse with nothing but dung beetle pamphlets that just no one cares to know about.
Yeah.
Pueblo, Colorado, home of the Vintage Government Pamphlet Museum. Right this way.
Well, just think in 30 years or whatever it's been, right? We have gone from having to send off to our government for pamphlets and information to the internet, the World Wide Web, or whatever we called it, to now ChatGPT and basically being able to just get any answer to any question instantly at any time. It's just, the quickening of the pace of things, but in any case.
What a time to be alive, right, guys?
Yeah, right.
Indeed. I'd kind of like to just go back to the 80s and stay there, if I'm being honest.
Especially you, right? With the cars. I know it wasn't perfect, but in retrospect, it seemed pretty great, didn't it?
Hell of a lot better than where we're at now, I think.
Yeah. That's for sure. It's so I had a CX-50, a Mazda CX-50 for a week, a rental, not a press car, a rental. Spent my own $400 on this thing, but we had our big Samoyed mixed dog, and I didn't want to return a press car full of white dog hair. And it was an interesting thing because I've heard so many good things about this car. Car and Driver goes on and on about the CX-50. Now, granted, this one had 15,000 hard rental miles on it, and it stunk. Perfectly good car. It was that or a new Chevy Traverse, and with gas as expensive as it is, I figured the smaller vehicle would be better. Perfectly good car to drive across the country, but just nothing special, right? It was nothing special. But I had a really interesting experience driving back because I dropped my wife and daughter off for a memorial service in the Twin Cities, and so it was me and the dog driving back from the Twin Cities to Colorado, and so I got to drive on some of these back roads and things, and realized Nebraska is actually quite beautiful once you get off I-80, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot to see. There's some really beautiful small towns in the northeast part of Nebraska in particular. But took some 2-lane roads through, I guess they call it the Sandhills area, sort of the central and northwestern region of Nebraska, and drove through a town called North Platte. I don't know if you know North Platte. It's one of these farming towns, railroad towns. All these towns are like this. The main drag goes over a viaduct over the switching yard or whatever, and there are grain elevators and this and that. But very like John Cougar Mellencamp, right? And I just happened to be there on a night where all the local people were in their cars, basically going back and forth,
cruising
on the main drag, and it was fascinating. There's a restaurant called Runza. And if you don't know Runza, I think it's pretty much Nebraska specific, but it's basically a hot pocket. You know this thing? Yeah. Have you experienced?
Yeah. And it's got ground beef in it. They go crazy.
They're quite good.
It.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm hanging out with my dog, in the Runza parking lot watching this show go by. And it was so interesting to see what these young people, not everyone was young, but what these people in this small town, I'm guessing probably 15,000 people, like what these young enthusiasts are buying. Because I thought it was going to be like all F-150s and old American stuff. And there certainly was that. There was some really cool, like lifted 70s Ford pickups and things. And Lindsey, I saw a car, like an early 90s Ford F-150 today. That was, do you remember they did like a splash and they did like there was one called a Nite, N-I-T-E.
Yeah.
Do you remember this? It had like the graphics package. I had seen one in years. It was so cool.
And you saw one today?
You saw one today, and I didn't have my phone was dead, and so I wanted to take a picture for you so badly. But so I'm sitting here in North Platte. They were so cool, right? And they seem tiny now. That's the other thing. They seem so small compared to like a new full-size pickup truck. But so there was definitely that era stuff as well. But it was the diversity in cars that really impressed me because there's everything from these old trucks to there was a tuned Beat Mini. Right. There were a couple of older BMW 3 Series. There was a convertible, like terrible exhausts, fart can exhaust, Charger Civics, Dodge Intrepids, if you remember those.
Oh my gosh.
And then of course, because it was the Dodge Intrepid, the Chrysler Concorde, and then there was the Eagle something or other. Do you remember the Eagle brand? There was.
I do.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I
can't remember what it was called though.
I like had a, Will Ferrell in Old School, like blacked out moment one time at work. We were talking about, it was when Stellantis, Fiat Chrysler became Stellantis. And I was in a meeting discussing the name change with one of the companies that was doing some work for the company I worked for. And one of the people on the call said, well, which brands is, Fiat Chrysler or Stellantis? And without thinking, I went Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Eagle.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I'm like, and yes, I did grow up in the 80s.
Yeah, yet you don't remember the government pamphlets. Go figure. But
no, I was more focused on the cars, I guess.
God, I think those were called the Chrysler LH cars. I think that's what they called those. And I remember when those came out, they were like God's gift. People thought they were wonderful, right?
Well, and the design was just so wild because that was such a wedge shape. I remember seeing an Intrepid for the very first time. My dad was in the car business, so I grew up around Chrysler, Dodge dealerships mostly is what he was a finance guy. So I was always, he had demos that he would bring home from the dealership.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time that I saw an Intrepid and I was like, wow, this thing is like really wedge shaped. I remember the windshield was so laid back and it was unlike anything, to go from like an 80s LeBaron to something like that was so radically different for that company. It was pretty wild to see, but you don't see him anymore. You don't see any cars from that era anymore. We had a Dodge Dynasty, I remember, for a long time as well. And when's the last time you saw a Dodge Dynasty? I mean, it's been years.
That was the real boxy one, sort of like a LeBaron, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Vinyl roof, maybe if you paid up. Crystal hood ornament, I believe, right?
Yep,
that's the one. Yeah. Those are all gone. And yet you see like GM cars from that era. You see all those old Buicks still around, but you don't see that Chrysler stuff.
Dodge, not so much. Yeah.
Not so much. It was really interesting to see what these kids were into. And for such a small city, there sure seemed to be a lot of automotive enthusiasm going in circles. And it was kind of cool. I mean, I guess if you live there, there's probably not a lot of twisty roads. So, you get in your car and you go up and down the main drag. But it was cool to see. Again, we always hear kids are into cars. Well, these kids sure were. And I was a little jealous of the guy with his girlfriend in the 70s pickup truck going down to the Sonic or whatever. I mean, that guy had it figured out. You talk about going back to simpler days. I think it still exists, and it's in North Platte, Nebraska. But anyway,
that's cool. I think you have to go to like little towns to get that feel. The big cities, not so much. But I think you get out in Middle America, they're still dragging Maine and going to Dairy Queen or Sonic, like you said. That's cool to know that that's still happening.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's such
Plus,
a
they don't have Uber there
Porsches,
probably, so you got to figure it out.
Yeah, no GT4s though. So disappoint, but
you have to come to that car show for that.
That's right. Well, I just got a new windshield on my car and 4 new Cup 2s. Any guesses on what that total was? So 4
you had
tires.
To get a windshield put in the GT4.
I I did. Yeah, it's my third windshield. We crack them out here in
Holy
Colorado,
moly.
especially when you're chasing a Spider RS with sticky tires. But
that'll
shout out
do
to my
it.
buddy Eric. But yeah.
I'm curious because I got a rock chip in mine when we were road tripping back from Kansas City to Seattle. So I'm kind of curious for personal reasons what that cost.
Yeah. Well, the total was $4,900.
Wow.
Which is a lot for four
tires on a windshield.
In a windshield.
Get them while you can.
And this is Porsche. Yeah. And just the windshield was $1,900.
Jeez.
I think that was the installed price, but tariffs and everything else. The last time, a couple years ago, it was $1,200. That's what it's gone up in 2 years, is $700. So, but at least now I'm good for a while. But yeah, that was a shock to the system. I've bought cars cheaper than that. whole cars.
We all have,
right?
100%.
So,
wow.
Yeah, but shout out to Porsche Colorado Springs, despite the price. I mean, it would have cost me that anywhere, and at least at Porsche Colorado Springs, I can trust them. I know it's going to be done right. All the Pikes Peak drivers were there because this was the Friday before the race, right? With the Friday before the
Oh, okay.
Ended up sitting down with Jeff Zwart, in the waiting room and this kind of thing. It was very cool to see these race cars just driving down from the hill.
Yeah.
Driving down from the mountain, no license plates or anything, giant wings, just coming in to get a little air or get something checked or whatever. And so it was a real hub of activity and pretty special. We're so lucky we've got a dealership like that here. And I didn't go to the race this year. I heard it was great and good weather and everything else. And
it sounds like you did it in a more comfortable way, though. You still got to see everybody and you didn't have to get up in the middle of the night and fight the crowds. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty surreal to just walk into the Porsche dealer and have Jeff Zwart sitting there, and you still got to see everybody. And
I think I'd rather sip an espresso on a comfy couch than
right.
Up on a mountain.
Yeah, shout out to Jason Schmidt down there, who's one of their master techs, and he works on a lot of these Pikes Peak cars, and he took time to take me to my car and show me what was going on and this and that, and just a hell of a nice guy. And it's just kind of cool, though, too, that he's the guy that's working on Jeff Zwart's car, right? He's working on my GT4.
Right. You're in good company.
Well.
Yeah.
So pretty cool and good company indeed. And all right. So you are festooned in all this Slate stuff. And I've heard a lot of buzz on Instagram and through friends and stuff today about the Slate launch. I don't know a whole lot about Slate other than this has been a long time coming. They have promised this really budget-friendly EV pickup truck, which is very basic, but I think that's what appeals to me. But start from the beginning, because I want to know everything there is to know about Slate, and I want to know about this amazing launch that I didn't get an invitation to, but it seemed like a lot of our friends were there as well. So it looked like a blast.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Begin at the beginning, right? Well, so they sort of launched the brand a year ago, April. So April 2025, they did an introduction of like, here's the company, here's what we're doing. We intend to produce an entry-level EV that, we want to make EVs accessible to many more people who have been locked out because of the price so far. And one of the hallmarks of their vehicles is the versatility and sort of customizability, because it's the same platform, same footprint, but you can have it be a pickup truck. You can have it be like kind of a Bronco looking with a sloped roof.
You can.
It looks, that to me, and Tori was with me this morning, we were talking about it. That one looks like one of the big two-door Range Rovers from the 90s,
Really?
which, and that's a little Easter egg. If you listened to our episode with Subaru of America's Dom Infante last week, because Dom just picked up one of the Range Rovers of those.
That's right.
But so there is a Slate that is very reminiscent of that silhouette.
Okay.
And then they also have a squareback SUV that looks like a baby Defender. Tori described it that way, and it's very accurate, especially from the back. It really does look like a Defender. And you can take the tops off like you do on a Wrangler or the new Bronco, and they have the bars that come down and have it be like a 4-seater SUV with no top, like a Beachmobile. And infinite possibilities. Like, they're making their own wraps. They're going to offer, you can see behind me just a small selection of the colors that they're going to offer, but they will also
you're not actually in the showroom, but who's
to say? I mean, look at my look at my outfit. Who's to say whether I am or not?
And if you're not watching, there's a rainbow of colors behind Lindsey right now. So,
like, it is reminiscent of the Porsche showroom, or design
like
center.
30 reds. I'm looking at like 30 reds over your right shoulder. So
yeah. And I'm blocking all the greens, but there's some beautiful greens as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tory, maybe you can talk more about the accessory area, because that was just as remarkable, I think.
Let me ask, where was the event?
So, yeah, it's funny because it's kind of nostalgic for us, because a year ago, after the first Slate event, Lindsey and I had our first and pretty much last date. And so Slate's always kind of been this weird special thing with us, because we equate it to like an anniversary of sorts.
Okay.
So when she said earlier this week, hey, I got invited to the Slate thing, I put your name on it if you want to come with. I am not Mr. EV at all. I love old cars. I love noisy, I'm not an EV guy. Ironically, the last couple weeks, all of her press cars have been EVs. So I've slowly been coming around to, okay, I might be able to see myself with this. So when she said it was Slate, I was like, that'd be kind of cool, Right. I was like, let's do the Slate thing.
Right.
So we're driving to Gardena. It was actually right near the Porsche Experience Center across
the
freeway from there. So we're literally passing the little muffler man holding the flag on the way. And
which is so cool.
Which is super cool. And we pull up and they have repurposed this building. It's super cool, like architecturally awesome. They've redone everything inside. It's an old brick building. So right off the bat, they got me. I'm like, this is a really cool space. I like it.
Right.
We walk inside after we check in. The bricks are all weathered inside. It's kind of reminiscent of like something you would see in Nashville, like antique archaeology that's like repurposed some old factory or warehouse. Super cool space. We walk in, they've got all of these cars displayed on these shipping containers. And I was like, wow, these look really cool, because Lindsey went to the first event. I did not. And so this was my first time to actually see one in person. And I have to say, in pictures and in magazines, the truck looks really, really tiny. And I was like, who's going to buy this? It doesn't look like something that really is practical. When I saw it in person and all the different configurations, I was like, okay, I can see now. It's almost like a Lego set, and it's very modular, and you can customize it. There's got to be an infinite amount of ways you can customize this thing, but they had the wall, like what's behind Lindsey right now, of all the colors, totally like Zonderwunsch, type of showroom. And then next to it, they've got all of these different interior squares, and you can customize the colors of dash inserts on the dashboard. You can customize the grille. You can customize literally every part of the car. You can take off with simple tools, and like a Lego set, you just plug in what you want to see. And it was such an interesting concept that I've never seen before. Of course, Jeeps, to some extent have that level of customizability.
Sure.
But this is something literally, I think a 6-year-old with an Allen head, bolt or screwdriver could do. And so to walk through, I mean, there was one point they have a wall of nothing but, I'm sure your kids had Crocs, and there's little charms that you can put on the Crocs to customize them.
Yeah.
They literally have a spot on the dashboard where they have these little charms that you can customize.
Oh, that's
the car. Yeah. And it's like, it's so out of the box thinking that it just might work. And, on the way to the event, my friend Jason Torchinsky, I was like, hey, we're on our way to the Slate event. Are you going to be there? I always check with him to see if he's going to be at a press event, because, I like to run into him and we catch up, and he's a Volkswagen guy. And he's like, no, I'm not there. But David Tracy from the Autopian was yesterday. You should check out his article. He's already written it up. He got to drive it. And I read the article, and I was glad that I'd read the article before I went in, because he nailed it. This little car has soul. Is it the most usable car? I don't know yet. Do I know who's going to buy it? No. Right. Lindsey and I were trying to figure out, like, who's going to be the customer. Is it going to be college kids? Is it going to be people that have a mobile detail business or a landscape business that needs something cheap? Maybe. Nobody knows, but it's at the forefront of a crossroads in the automotive space that is just really cool. And, we talked to all of these people that were on the engineering and design team today. They all had come from other manufacturers. A lot of them, I think, were probably ready to retire. And when they heard
Interesting.
Yeah.
about what was happening with Slate, every single one of them was like, you know what? This is something that I want to be a part of. This is me getting in on the ground floor of something that I think could be revolutionary. And I stand behind it and I want to be involved. And it was so cool to see how personally invested every single one of these people from the design teams were with this car, truck, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
And it's, I can't help but draw parallels between this and the Volkswagen Beetle when it must have come to the US shores for the first time, because it's such a funny looking little car. Back then, I mean, it was the bigger, the better, longer, lower, wider Cadillacs, Chevys. And here comes this funny looking little car that absolutely revolutionized the automotive industry, because it was a car that anybody could buy, anybody could afford, anybody could use. It was the people's car.
Anybody could
And
work
I
on
don't
too.
say this lightly. I think Slate could be the next people's car. I really didn't want to like this car, Ryan, and I left there with just this renewed sense of, is this something that I could buy? Could I use this? Could I find a spot in my garage for this little car? Because I was so moved by what they're trying to build.
You mentioned soul. What is it that imparts the soul, right? Because I just did this press car day where I got to drive, I don't know, a couple dozen cars or whatever. Lindsey did something similar.
Yeah.
Some cars did seem to have that. Others were dead inside.
Right.
So what is it? Is it the honesty of the thing? Is it, is it that it's what you see is what you get, that it's not trying to be?
I think it's all of those things, because and what's so ironic about it is, me personally not being a huge fan of EVs, I've always thought they were like an appliance. This is just a toaster. This is just but for whatever reason, this little car, you just look at it and you're like, it's kind of cute to look at. It's got crank windows. It's very no frills. It's what you see is what you get. It's not trying to be something that it's not. I just love everything about it. It's, to me, I was telling Lindsey earlier, it's kind of like an underdog. You've got all these companies trying to outdo one another on bells, whistles, wireless, this, self-parking, that. This seems to get back to the root of driving. And I love it. It's super no frills. Like, there's nothing on the dashboard really. There's not much for an interior. Everything, there's a lot of plastic. But it just seems fun. And the fact that you have these limitless ways to customize it and personalize it and make it your own, I don't see that with other car makers. Sure, you can do stuff to trucks and lift them and put rims on them, but I mean, they had an entire slideshow going the entire time we were there, showing nothing but different liveries that different people had created. There were like 1980s trapper keeper looking slates.
Yeah.
There were futuristic cyberpunk looking liveries. I mean, it was unbelievable to see, and I've never seen another car manufacturer embrace the personality of these cars like I saw Slate today. And everyone, you could tell, was just excited to be there and finally be able to show this thing off.
Yeah.
Well, and I think because there are manufacturers, like we mentioned, Porsche and the Sonderwunsch program, but that's not accessible to most people. This is something that is affordable and accessible. Like, we could talk to one of the people on the engineering team, and he said when this idea was first coming to shape for the company, to like when Slate itself was first taking shape, they said at that point, we're looking at people where a lot of people were only making $50,000 a year, or that was the median income or whatever. And they're like, if the average car price is also $50,000 a year, that doesn't track. Like, that's not a viable situation. So can we make something that is more affordable, gives people an entree into the EV space if they want it? And one thing that he mentioned too is, he said a lot of people were limited in the vehicle options that are available. They were being forced to work in jobs that they could reach via bus. And they're like, what if we gave them the ability to work like way more flexible, open up their options? That's fantastic. And then also like the economic positive impact of that can't be overstated. And I think, you said what gives a car soul? I think it's the ability to make it yours. When we had Laura on, she talked about she looks at cars a lot of times as sort of an extension of like your personality, or it's a way to show, like, say something about yourself. You can think of it as an accessory, and it's how you show up in the world. And I think Slate like really is the embodiment of the ultimate way to say something about yourself through your vehicle before even get out of the car.
Yeah, so how are these customizable elements customized? Is this something does it come from the factory? Is this all stuff you can do on your own? To your point, Tory, like what is this like going into a sushi restaurant and you check off the options on a little piece of paper? Like how does this all work? How does this all come together?
I think both. I think you're able to buy a bare bones blank slate, no pun intended. And then you customize it from there. You can, I believe there is a configurator, much like Porsches, like we all do late at night when you've had a few too many beers and you want to build a car, but you can't afford it. So I do believe that there's boxes you can check, but they also said that what was it, 40,000 or something? I mean, some ungodly amount of service centers that they're going to have. And what's really cool about them is they're beating the aftermarket to the punch. They're designing all of this stuff. They're going to invite people to 3D print parts for this car. So they're really embracing, like, whereas anyone else, like say Porsche, I'm sure they probably have a problem with people making parts, or, they want the proprietary stuff. Whereas they're like, hey, have fun with it. Go crazy. We're putting this out to the world. This is your blank canvas. Do what you want. Their slogan is literally, we built it, you make it. And I love that. They're embracing the personalization of this car. But I mean, if you would have seen what they had set up today, it was mind-blowing. I mean, they have different aero trim rings that can go on the wheels. They have different wheels. They had a Westphalia pop top tent, like what was on old VW buses that you could put on. They have, I mean, it's an infinite amount of different ways you can customize this car. I cannot wait. It's going to bring so much color back to the streets because so many people are going to design them themselves, and it's not just going to be dull silver cars everywhere. I'm really excited to see all of these crazy. You're going to see ones that have Hello Kitty on it probably, and you're going to see futuristic ones. And he even mentioned, he was like, people have already said that if they're, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you're going to see Pittsburgh Steelers, on slates, and it's going to be cheap enough that they can probably swap them out during seasons. If you all of a sudden become a Green Bay Packers fan or whatever, you can customize it to that, which is really cool.
Are the body panels plastic?
They are. Yeah. Okay. It's like a plastic composite, but then like the door frames, he was saying, actually are bonded to a metal inner structure. It's a 5-star crash rated vehicle. So they are safe. But I mean, I don't think we've seen this in Saturn, right? I can't think of another car that's had plastic composite body parts, but
we have Slate Homecomings.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
One of the things that really struck me, because so we heard from the CEO and then one of the presidents, and then we actually got to chat with one of the engineering team one-on-one. And one of the things that the CEO mentioned, because they want to encourage and facilitate people customizing these and putting their own spin on them, he said, we even went through and made sure that there was a particular angle that can be really tough to do a wrap on a car, or a particular, shape. And he said, we made sure that we minimized those, if not eliminated them, to make it even easier for you to put the wrap on yourself at home if you want. And like Tory said, they're going to have these, service centers, and they're not dealers because it's a direct order, set up just like Tesla. You order it online.
Okay.
But then you can go to these certified Slate centers, and you could have them do the work if you wanted, or they will help you. And Yeah, he's like, we wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to not only pick your wrap, but like Tory said, change out the wrap if you want to.
Right. Can you get a bench seat?
In the back, I think you
That I don't
can.
know. I didn't see.
Yeah.
So they had mock-up interiors set up that you could actually like switch out the little panels. I didn't see a bench seat. I did see. I
that
mean,
would be
it's
cool.
just the 2 seats, normal type of seats, but I didn't see a bench seat.
Yeah.
But that's not to say someone's not going to come up with it. I think
Totally.
if people are paying attention right now, they would be smart to start developing parts for this thing, because I think it's really going to be that popular. I think if they're going to
Interesting,
encounter a
yeah.
problem, it's going to be that they cannot keep up with the demand quick enough.
Interesting. Well, hell, if I owned like a plumbing company, I'm replacing my 30, Ford Econoline vans tomorrow with these things, right?
100%. And we were even talking about
Yeah.
landscapers. You see a lot of
Right,
landscapers down here in the LA area. They got rakes and all their yard stuff and whatever else. They're almost always like 80s trucks, mini
Like
trucks.
Toyotas. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when those things stop running, which eventually they probably will, like this is a great option for them. It's not gonna, electric. I mean, that is the future. And especially here in California, the engineer had a great point. He's like, with smog and everything, he was like, this is a good option for everybody in Southern California. You don't have to worry about that. It's a clean car. And honestly, the power was more than adequate. They took us down a purposely bumpy road because it's like, okay, it's kind of a short wheelbase car. Like, how's it going to handle? It was fine. I was worried about getting in it. I'm almost 6'2", and I was like, this thing looks pretty tiny on the outside.
Sure.
I don't know what witchcraft they did, but when you sit in this thing, I probably had another 6-8 inches of headroom in it. It was bizarre. Like, it didn't look like it would be that big inside, but it was huge inside.
So tell me about the powertrains, because I have heard that range can be an issue, but I also assume that much like the roll-up windows, you can option up to other things, right? There are probably other powertrains.
So right now,
so my understanding was originally there were a couple options. There was an extended range battery pack, I believe, and then there was just the standard. And when they started looking at the data of what people were, I guess, pre-ordering or putting reservations in for, everyone was opting for the bigger, obviously with EV, range is everything. And I believe, I could be wrong, Lindsey can correct me, but if I was paying attention correctly, I believe they upped the range like 50 miles. Now the range is 205 miles. And they're not even offering an option. They just automatically upgraded the range to that because they were like, it doesn't look like anyone wants the 155 option or whatever. So everything is going to be 205 mile range now, which is pretty nice. So
will there be an all-wheel drive option?
So they are famously mum on that a little bit. It was kind of a never say never. So the CEO talked about the range, and what he said was that after they launched and they announced what the range was going to be, consistently, like Tory was saying, what they heard from people was, is there any way to increase the range? Because, and that was across the board. And so they were committed to, and I just checked my notes, and the starting price will be $24,950. And then obviously you option it the way that you want, and the price goes up accordingly. But he said, we committed after we got all this feedback, and it was consistently the same thing. We said, okay, we need to find a way to increase the range, and we're committed to keeping the price under $25,000. And so as of today, they have done that. They're announcing that, like Tory said, they've added 50 miles to the range. And he said they had taken pre-orders, and then before the event this morning, they opened up the actual reservations where you could get a spot in line. And by the time he was speaking at the event on the West Coast, which was shortly after 9 o'clock, he said, we're already at 10,000 reservations.
Really? Wow. That's amazing. And I imagine with, as far as range and all that, the way to more range is another, motor and battery pack and all that. And so that would also have more power. And I'm sure it's just, they'll grow into that, right? I'm sure that that the car is built for expansion, right? I'm really intrigued, I think as a third or fourth car for a family like mine, it makes a ton of sense, 5-star crash rating, I'd let my daughter drive it to school. The utility of a pickup especially has a lot of appeal, where I've never been a pickup truck guy. I've never owned one, never really desired to own one, but something like this fits in the garage, it's just, it would be such a great runabout, right? Costco runs, that kind of thing. It sort of seems like there really are no great downsides. We'll see. I know the association with Amazon and Jeff Bezos and all this, they've gotten some grief for that, but it sounds like this is really its own entity, and it's
really
they're kind of doing their own thing, and I'm intrigued. What does it cost to put a deposit down on one? Do you know?
$300.
$300.
Oh, even I can afford that.
Right.
Yeah. I did read there's going to be some financing options as well, but I believe $300 is that's all it takes to reserve your spot for one. And then when it gets a little closer to delivery, as I understand, then they'll contact you, and, then you can configure it how you want, modify it. And then they'll have a little better idea. But supposedly, according to them today, deliveries will start end of 2026, beginning of 2027. So they're coming soon. Everything's built in Indiana. They've repurposed a huge factory up there. It looked state of the art, beautiful, beautiful factory.
Is this the old Mitsubishi plant? I think it was.
No,
I think they said it was an old printing plant or something.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm thinking of Bloomington Normal, Illinois, but okay.
Could be. Huh. Yeah, and we were talking on the way up, knowing what little we knew before the event about who might be the target audience. And I was saying, given the price point and the utility, like you said, Ryan, my first thought was college students, because that's a group that needs to move regularly for a few years. And, the versatility of the car, in theory, you could turn it into a pickup truck when you're moving into school and moving out. And the rest of the year, you can make it an enclosed SUV that seats 4.
Right.
But what was so interesting when we were talking to the engineer was, he mentioned, and it's kind of what you said too, Ryan, they're also anticipating that it will be people who kind of buy one and tuck it away, because it gives them the option of having a truck without having to go buy one of the big full-size pickups, which are expensive these days. And if you don't need one all the time, but trucks can be really nice to have one when you need one.
Right.
And this gives you the option of buying one. It doesn't break the bank. You can tuck it away. It fits in the garage. It's kind of the best of all the worlds.
Yeah. I see this being towed behind, RVs. I see this as like the snowbird vehicle down in Florida, when you live in New York or Chicago or something. I see this in, all the like beach communities, right? In California.
Yeah.
It could almost take the place of like a Myers-Manx or something, or even a golf cart, right? Where maybe you had a golf cart or one of these, you've got a Slate. It's just,
we literally
sounds like a commercial, but what's that?
Yep. And we literally were talking about that. You have a lot of these communities in Florida and California, these beach communities. Everyone's got these golf carts, and the engineer we were talking to, we brought up that point. He goes, you know what? In a lot of cases, like those golf carts are just as expensive as what we're asking for the Slate. Those things have gotten really expensive. They're lifted. They have wheels on them. They got huge stereos on them now. Like this, it could essentially. And, I'll make this point too. The other thing that I'm excited to see happen is this may be the car that finally gets younger people more interested in getting their driver's license, more interested in not taking Uber everywhere. This may be the car that kind of gets the millennials and the younger generation mobile again, instead of having to rely on other people or taking mass transit, or because they're going to feel like they're not polluting the environment. It's an EV. That might be the thing that gets them excited about driving again.
Right.
Yeah, because
it'll be the new hero car of the villages in Florida for all the swingers.
There you go.
But,
Well, and in a lot of ways, with all of the customizability, and you can see the bright colors behind me. And they had, at the event, Tory mentioned they had sort of miniaturized interiors, and so you could go over and play with. They had pieces set out, and so you could see how easy it was to swap them out. At one point, somebody had put 3 different colors across the dash, which that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But depending on, like,
Mhm.
if you had one of the amazing 80s exteriors, you can color coordinate to
Right,
your heart's content inside.
right,
And
right,
so I think in a
right.
lot of ways, I think one of the reasons a lot of people gravitate to vintage cars is because of all the bright colors and the joy. A lot of
Mhm.
the reason we come to driving is because it brings all of us joy, and I think these cars are gonna help bring some of the joy back to everyday life for sure, but just
Yeah,
cars in general and driving, and like Tori said, like, sort of be a like a happy, entree enticement back into, like, "Hey, driving is supposed to be fun. It
yeah,
brings a lot of us a lot of joy, and these cars are, joy embodied." And so,
right,
yeah, I'm
right,
excited to see
right,
what people do
right.
with them.
So you didn't get to drive them, you rode them, but you haven't had a chance to
Yes,
drive one yet, right?
correct.
So I'm
Correct.
very interested, and I trust David Tracy's opinion. He seems to know what he's talking about
He knows
generally.
what's up.
So if he thinks it drives well, then I'm guessing it does. And so, it seems like a very compelling. It seems we've talked about this before, but this is probably the right car for a lot of people, right? And
Mhm.
it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see like where this pulls people though from not just golf carts, but like where will people jump ship,
Uh-huh.
to go to a Slate? Will it be the people like the Rivian crowd, right? Especially with the new R2 or whatever.
Right.
Or to your point, Tori, is this going to be the new people's car? Is this like going to be the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the great equalizer, right? I could see people, to your point, like what a Beetle used to be, right? You had poor people, you'd have wealthy people. I mean, it didn't really matter. It was sort of like the I don't know, the anti-status car, right? And
Right.
and
Well,
yeah,
it's
I don't
the
know. I
Absolutely.
love
universal
that because it's been a long
appeal.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, I could see millionaires in South Beach driving this to
Right.
get, a coffee, and I could see broke college kids,
Yeah.
working 3 jobs to stay afloat using this. It is the great equalizer, and I do think it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
the next people's car. I really feel strongly about
Interesting.
that.
Yeah. 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 So what are you specking for yourselves, each of you? How are you
Oh, that's a
specking out
good
your new
question.
Slate?
Um, I would I really liked the one that looks like a Defender, unsurprisingly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was really cool because the ones that they had on display were reminiscent of, if you've seen the Beach Break Defender livery, which is the beautiful
Mm,
blue with a white roof,
yeah.
and then it's got the kind of sunset stripes. And so they had them done in like reds, oranges, and yellows, different variations of that. And actually, and the one that looked like a Range Rover, they had in kind of a metallic burnt orangey. I mean, I'm
Cool.
assuming it was a
Yeah.
wrap. Yeah, I'd have to go with the Defender. And I mean, I probably would go with some sort of variation of like the sunset colors because it just
Yeah.
looked fantastic. And I know it would make me smile. And I have to say, like, we got to ride in them and we both were really impressed when we got out. And the ride was, there was plenty of feedback from the road. And like Tori said, we were in Gardena. We were near
Mhm.
the old Shelby headquarters too, if anybody knows
Mm,
where that is. And the roads are not great. Like they are decidedly in need of some TLC.
sure.
And the cars were super comfortable. And you get feedback, it's not vague. Like you're definitely aware of what's going on the road. You're very engaged, but super comfortable. And one thing that really caught my attention, because this is not the case with all EVs, but the one
Mm,
pedal driving was incredibly comfortable. Like some of them, it
interesting.
can be
Okay.
quite jerky, and this was very
Right.
pleasant.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Tori?
I really like the open top. I think I would
Yeah.
go I think I'd go with the open top. I like the kind of, exposed integrated roll bar, on the back, like 3 quarters, and I'd have to do probably something 80s vibrant,
Yeah.
purple,
Yeah.
turquoise,
Yes.
pink, white, something that looks like it would be on the beach in,
Yeah. Sure.
Miami
Sure.
in 1985. I mean, that would just be so cool. And I kept, during the slideshow presentation, they're showing all of these liveries on the screen, and like there were a lot of 80s kind of throwback inspired liveries. I was really impressed. Like I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is cool. I like where the creativity of this is going. And I
Yeah.
mean, there were a couple that looked like, I mean, if you remember Trapper Keepers, like that's
Yeah.
kind of what they look like. Were
Yeah.
Trapper
Yeah.
Keepers
Yeah.
when we were a
Yeah.
kid. I loved it. It was really cool. I'd probably do something like that. But I did like the Baby
Absolutely.
Defender. Like that was
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Yeah.
spare tire
Yeah.
treatment on it was very reminiscent of the Defender. A lot of the people that worked, one of the guys that Evan gave me a ride, and he came from Scout. And so you could see kind of some parallels with Scout. You could see it was cool. Everyone just kind of put their own little thing in, and everyone was so passionate. That's what my big takeaway was. It was so cool to see a team that was so passionate, and all of their hard work has led up to basically today. I mean, all these people were going on, Red Bulls and coffees for a week. And
Yeah.
Lindsey had a
Yeah.
good friend that was there that was lovely to talk to. And, you could tell poor thing was on borrowed time, but she was so proud of everything that they had accomplished. And you could really feel a sense of that accomplishment just talking to them, and how excited they were to finally be able to show it with the world. And the fact that they were able to keep the price under $25,000. A lot of people said they'll never be able to do it. The Reddit pages were just flaming them left and right, like, oh, they're baiting and switching everybody. No, they did it. They absolutely did it. And my hands off to them, because it's good luck trying to do that. The engineer we talked to, he's like, it's really easy to take the last iteration of a car and build upon that and make it something special. He said, we had a blank whiteboard, and that's where we started. And the fact that we've come this far in so little time, and everyone is so enthusiastic about it, man, my hands off to him. I mean, it was a really, really you felt like you were kind of watching history. That's
cool.
how I felt today.
Mean,
it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rare thing these days, right?
I know.
So
it really is. I mean, I've been to press launches before, and they're all kind of the same, right? I mean, some are more exciting than others, but this one, you just felt like a buzz. It was a weird, electricity joke aside, like there was a buzz about it, and it was really cool. I was very glad we went. I really was.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys went too. No, this is interesting. It's really I'd seen the articles. That's interesting. Seems kind of novel, but I don't know that I ever really desired one, and I think maybe that's changing. So, stay tuned. I think the story is just getting started, and hell, maybe we'll end up with 3 Slate owners on the show to go with our Porsches. But
that's gonna be our 2-car solution: a Slate and a GT4.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great 2-car solution for sure. So, well, we're at an hour. I'm so glad to hear about the Slate. I think it's really cool. Like I said, I'm really excited. I'm eager to see how this thing plays out, and maybe we'll have someone from Slate on in the weeks to come to tell us more. We'll see. But in the meantime, we've got some great episodes coming up, including the Pebble Beach Concours new president, Vince Finaldi. He's coming on in about 3 weeks, and some other great people as well. Our old friend Lynn Woodward is coming back in a couple weeks as well. So it's going to be
excited.
Good. So please stay tuned, and don't forget to tell your friends about us as well. But it's been a long day, guys. Should we wrap this up?
I think it's about that time.
It's been fun, but it was long for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I'll hand the mic to you here, Lindsey.
Yeah, well, thank you so much to everybody for joining us. Obviously, thank you to Tory for being here. Ryan, it was so good to see you. We appreciate all of our listeners being here, liking, reviewing, and sharing the show with their enthusiast friends. Remember to always be driving. We're That Car Show, and we'll see you back here next week.